So Benjamin Franklin once said, nothing can be certain except death and taxes. Unfortunately, one other certainty that is really starting to creep up is that many people eventually have to take out student loans and spend years paying them back. Regardless of whether your goals after school are trade school, maybe flight school, a CDL for driving trucks, all the way up to doctors and lawyers and surgeons. At some point in time, you'll decide a high school education probably isn't enough, and in order to pay for that subsequent education, there is some kind of loan you'll need to take out. So the purpose of this project is all about these real world situations that many people have to face, but not everybody understands. See, when you're 18 and you take out a $30,000 loan, you don't really understand what that means. So the goal of this project is really to open some eyes and let you know, hey, this is what that $30,000 loan really means. So the formula for figuring out a monthly payment, this is the industry formula right here. When you take out a loan, they're going to give you a schedule that shows you how much you'll pay every month. This is the formula that they use. Note that it's ugly, but it has all the same variables as the simpler formulas we just took the test on, the APERT and the growth model. So we have P, which is our principal. That's the amount you borrow. So if I'm taking out a $30,000 loan, P is 30,000. If I'm taking out $1 million loan, P is $1 million. R is our interest rate, and note that shows up in the formula several times. I'm going to get rid of the big yellow here. R is our interest rate, and the important thing there is that that needs to be in decimal form. That needs to be in decimal form. So if it's 1%, then we need to make that 0.01. If it's 10%, then it's 0.1. And if interest is ever at 10%, maybe take a gap year. And then last but not least, we have T, the number of years. So those two are pretty self-explanatory. All of that is going to equal M, our monthly payment. So let's do two made-up scenarios real quick, and then we'll dive into some real-world stuff. So if we want to borrow, let's say we're going to borrow $40,000 at 6.2% interest. 6.2 is the current interest rate. It's always important to double check what the rates are before you take out any loan, because some places can get you less, some places are going to charge you more because they know you're not looking. A quick Google search gave us 6.2% for current Stafford loan interest rates. So we're going to roll with that number. And we're going to repay it over 15 years. So T is going to be 15. So no matter how ugly the formula looks, it is just a formula. So we need to put numbers where they belong by substitution. So alpha F1 will give us our fraction menu. Hitting enter will allow us to type in the fraction. At its core, this formula is just a bunch of fractions. So P is 40,000. This is assuming I took out a $40,000 loan. And then inside of that fraction, we get more fractions. My rate is 0.062. Remember, 6.2% interest as a decimal is 0.062. There's a 12 in the denominator because I'm paying monthly. And then we get the big one, 1 plus that same fraction, 0.062 in the numerator, 12 in the denominator, still paying monthly. And then in the exponent spot, we get 12 times T, the number of years that we're repaying this. So we're going to start with 15. 15 is fairly common, although for those of you thinking maybe med school or law school, we might tweak this project to be a little bit more in line with reality. It might be a 20-year repayment, hopefully not longer than that. In the denominator of this fraction, we're going to have 1 plus that same fraction that keeps popping up over and over and over again, 0.062 over 12, also raised to the 12 times 15 power, and in the denominator, we subtract 1. So it's a pretty large formula. On the plus side, once it's in your calculator once, you can scroll back up and continue to use it, just tweaking a variable here and there. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter, and we get a payment $341.88. So in other words, every month, that's how much you would need to pay back for 15 years. So let's find out how much you're actually paying back. This is the part that people struggle to understand. You do understand that when you take out a loan, you have to pay it back. What sometimes people struggle to understand is how much they're paying back. So we're going to take that $341.88, and well, we're paying that every month. So there's 12 months in a year, and there's 15 years for this loan. So when it's all said and done, this loan is going to cost us $61,538. And let's not forget about the change there. What was it, 50 cents? 40 cents. So in other words, we had to pay $21,500 more than we borrowed. That's the big deal. That's what interest is all about. A bank made $21,000 off this loan just for the privilege of letting you have some money for a while. Good times. Now keep in mind, that was a $40,000 loan. That's pretty easy to get, as we'll see shortly. $40,000 doesn't go as far as it used to. Let's throw a really large number in there, like, say $120,000. This used to be what we considered medical school. This number's a bit low now. But we'll go ahead and throw that $120,000 into the formula, just so that you can see how much interest can really add up over time. So I've changed that $40,000 to $120,000. Nothing else changed. I still have 6.2% interest. We're still doing this for 15 years. And suddenly that monthly payment is $1,025.64. And that's every month. So let's find out how much that's going to cost this doctor. $1,025.64. Remember, that's every month for 12 months, 15 years. When it's all said and done, that's going to cost $184,615. 184,615. Woo! That is $64,000 paid back in interest. That's a lot of money. So this is the goal of this project, is to start putting real numbers into this formula, numbers related to a school you are interested in, and then comparing them to some options. So we have 3 options already set up. NIU, which I'm going to do right here for you. And then I want you to calculate University of Chicago and Kishwaukee. Kishwaukee is just up there as our generic community college. In general, community colleges are going to be less expensive than other options. University of Chicago is one of our flagship schools here in Illinois, so it's very expensive. And then in this last column, notice that it's blank, both up here as well as down here. In that last column, I want you to pick a school other than these 3 that I have listed. Do a bit of research and find an institution that you're interested in. If you know you're not going to college, then look for a trade school that maybe is interesting to you. Maybe a CDL if you're thinking about driving, possibly flight school. Look for a program that's interesting to you. Or find a random school that you like the name of. Find out the tuition and just kind of see where it goes from there. If you are honestly considering law school, med school, dental, anything where you know it's going to be an expensive student loan, raise your hand. I'll help you get as accurate a number as you can for these boxes so we can really look at real numbers. That is the goal of this project. So I'm going to do NIU. This was NIU's current tuition. The last we looked it up. You can get tuitions from this link down here. You might want to change the state if you're looking at different schools. Now keep in mind, when you look up tuition, it's only going to give you 1 year, or some websites will only give you 1 semester. So you'll have to actually do a bit of work to find the real cost of your loan. So a normal degree, a normal bachelor's degree, I should say, is 4 years. If we're talking like Kish, a community college, or a trade school, you're probably looking at like 2 years. Depending on what you want to do, your years in attendance, it could be 2, it could be 4, maybe you're thinking a master's for 6 or more. So let me know, again, if you're having trouble, if you have a difficult circumstance for calculating years in tuition. Let's get you some real numbers. We can figure out that amount. For NIU, though, this is easy. It's $14,617 per year, and in general, a bachelor's takes about 4 years. So we're going to borrow $58,468. So that is how much we would borrow to go to NIU for 4 years, assuming we took loans out for the whole thing. So once you have that number, your tuition number, remember the formula is already stored in our calculator. So all we need to do is change the principal. So I have my $58,468 already prepped, ready to go in the formula. Keep in mind, this is more than our $40,000 just random number earlier, so we're expecting there to be more, a higher payment than before. And sure enough, we get $499.73. And that's just for NIU. $499.73. So remember, actual cost is where we take that monthly payment, $499.73, and remember that's every single month. So we need to multiply that by 12 months because there's 12 months in a year, and then the total number of years we're borrowing, which is 15. So that 4-year education is going to cost you $89,951. $89,951. Bank's gonna want that change, 40 cents. All right. The last thing that I want you to do is to calculate the difference. Remember, difference means to subtract. So subtract the actual cost, what you're going to have to pay back. Subtract the amount you borrowed from that actual cost. So now that we know how much this loan is going to cost us over 15 years, 89,951.40. Take away the 58,468. What this number is 31,483. That's how much money you're paying the bank for the privilege of letting them loan you money. So the goal is to make that number as small as possible. You want to pay as little in interest as possible. In this case, that is either a nice new car or a really nice used car. Down payment on a house, $30,000 is a lot of money. I already forgot it. 31,483. All right. So the goal now is for you to look at University of Chicago, which is going to be a very large interest payment. Compare that to Kish. Again, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. Kish is only going to be a 2-year degree. But still, just look at the numbers and compare them. And then I want you to go out and actually find a school or a program you're interested in and run the numbers for your own personal situation. So raise a hand with any questions, comments, concerns, or feelings you may have. This one can be a heavy one. This can be a tough project for some people. So if you need to take a minute and stretch and go for a walk, just let me know. Here for you. See you soon.